Arteta stands at his press conference. 6 names are missing from training, and one of them is Declan Rice. The reporter asked directly, is Rice available? He pauses. We have to wait till tomorrow morning to see how few of the boys are. Not a few doubts, not a fitness concern. How few? That one word tells you everything the medical team is saying behind closed doors. Saka, Odegaard, Timber, Calafiori, Rice, all off the training pitch 24 hours before the biggest European night the Emirates has seen in years. And yet one small window. When asked about Saka and Timber, Arteta says, maybe one of them, let's see. That is not a team announcement. That is a manager managing the unknown right up to the morning of the match. Arsenal hold a 1-0 lead, Sporting bring their captain back. And right now, Arteta does not know who will be on the pitch to protect it. The injury crisis, what we know. Let us start with the confirmed training update that has sent a wave of concern through every Arsenal supporter. Conor Humm, reporting from the training ground, confirmed that the following players were not spotted in training today: Declan Rice, Bukayo Saka, Martin Odegaard, Riccardo Calafiori, Jurrien Timber, and Mikel Merino, who remains a long-term absentee. Read that list again. That is not a small injury concern. That is the spine of this Arsenal team missing from the training pitch 24 hours before one of the most important European nights the Emirates Stadium has seen in years. Now, let me give you my honest take on this. When you lose 1 or 2 key players, a squad adapts, managers rotate, backup players step up. But when you lose that many players at the same time, especially players of that quality, what you are really losing is the entire tactical identity of the team. Declan Rice controls the tempo in midfield. Martin Odegaard is the creative heartbeat of everything Arsenal do in attack. Bukayo Saka provides the threat, the directness and the goals that change games. Calafiori and Timber give the backline its defensive solidity and its ability to press high. Losing all of them at once is not just a numbers problem, it is a structural crisis. And that is before we even talk about what is at stake tomorrow night. Arteta speaks, and what he really said. Mikel Arteta faced the press ahead of the Sporting CP second leg, and Conor Humm was there to capture every important exchange. Here is what Arteta said, and I want you to listen carefully, because what a manager chooses not to say is just as important as what he does say. When asked about the squad for the Sporting CP game, Arteta said, and I quote, "Yeah, we have to wait till tomorrow morning to see how few of the boys are and make the right decision with them." Now, let me break this down for you. The phrase, how few of the boys are, is not an accident. That is a manager who knows his options are limited. He is not saying we have a few doubts. He is framing it around how few players he will actually have available. That is a significant difference. It tells you that internally the confidence about who is fit is very low. When the reporter pushed specifically on Declan Rice, Arteta refused to give any details. He simply said, I don't want to do that. We have to wait and see how he is tomorrow. But obviously he wasn't available to train. Now, here is what this really means. When a manager refuses to explain the nature of an injury and deflects to, we will see tomorrow, it almost always means the player is not going to be available. Arteta is experienced enough to manage expectations carefully. If Rice had a realistic chance of playing, Arteta would have said something more encouraging. The silence is the answer. Then came the most interesting part of the press conference. The reporter asked any chance of Saka or Timber being back potentially tomorrow, and Arteta said, maybe one of them, let's see. Here is how I see this. This is the one small window of hope in the entire press conference. He did not say both of them. He said, maybe one. That tells me that one of these 2 players has a slightly better chance of being available, but even then, it is not confirmed. It is a maybe. And in high-stakes European football, you simply cannot build your entire game plan around a maybe. The Saka injury in detail. On Bukayo Saka specifically, Arteta provided more clarity when pressed by journalists. The reporter asked whether the injury was picked up in the Carabao Cup final. Arteta confirmed it was something Saka had been carrying for a while. When asked directly what the injury was, Arteta said it wasn't an Achilles issue. And then the critical exchange. The reporter reminded Arteta that he had hoped Saka would be back for Bournemouth. Arteta responded by saying, no, it's progression, but hopefully it's going to be a matter of days and not weeks. But he has to see when he's loading more, how he responds to that kind of progression. Let me give you my honest take on this. The fact that Arteta specifically ruled out an Achilles issue is meaningful. Achilles injuries are the worst case scenario for any footballer in terms of recovery time. Ruling that out is a positive signal. However, the phrase a matter of days and not weeks combined with he has to see how he responds to loading tells me that Saka is still in a rehabilitation phase where training intensity is being carefully managed. He is not ready to play 90 minutes of Champions League football, and pushing him before he is truly ready would be reckless. The good news is the prognosis is not catastrophic, but the timing is extremely difficult. Before we go deeper into the tactical situation and the transfer news, let me pause for 1 second. If you are watching this channel for the first time, this is exactly what we do here. We do not just read headlines. We break down what the information actually means. We look behind the words. We give you the full picture that most channels skip. If that is the kind of analysis you want, hit that subscribe button right now. It costs you nothing, and it means you will never miss a breakdown like this one again. Now let us continue, because it gets even more interesting. What Arsenal were actually working on in training. Despite all the injury disruption, Arsenal's assistant coach, Albert Stuvenberg, was running a very specific and purposeful training drill. The focus was structured in 3 phases: build up, wide play, and final third execution. The drill worked like this. Arsenal start in possession. After 10 passes, the ball must go wide, either right or left. From there, the instruction was to deliver a cross into a 2 versus 1 situation in the box. And if the defending team wins the ball, they immediately push it back out wide again. Here is the part most people are missing. Look at what this drill is actually designed to solve. It is building the muscle memory of creating width, generating crossing situations, and producing overloads in the penalty area. Now think about why that matters specifically for tomorrow's game. Arsenal are going into this match without their natural right winger in Saka, and potentially without their captain and creative midfielder in Odegaard. So what Stuvenberg is doing is drilling the players who will be available in exactly the movements they will need to execute tomorrow. This is not a generic training session. This is targeted preparation for the specific problem Arsenal are trying to solve. It tells me the coaching staff are not panicking. They are adapting with precision and purpose. Declan Rice, the moment it happens. Daily AFC provided important context on how the Declan Rice injury actually occurred. Rice appeared to sustain an injury during the Bournemouth match after landing awkwardly when attempting a header. He was seen limping very heavily after the incident. The match was at 64 minutes and 59 seconds with the score at 1-1. Here is what you really need to understand. Landing awkwardly from a header and then limping heavily are 2 important details. The fact that it came from a landing rather than a tackle or a direct contact injury makes it harder to categorise immediately. It could be an ankle, it could be a knee, it could be a muscular reaction. The fact that Arteta refused to name the injury in his press conference suggests it is still being assessed, or that the medical team want more time before confirming anything publicly. What we know for certain is that he trained separately or not at all, and Arteta is waiting until the morning of the game to make a final decision. That is not the situation of a player who is close to 100%. The referee and why it matters. Liquid Guna confirms that Francois Letexier has been appointed to referee the Arsenal versus Sporting CP Champions League quarter-final second leg at the Emirates. Here are the key facts. Letexier has officiated 7 Champions League games this season. He averages 4.7 yellow cards per match. He has issued 1 red card across those 7 games. His record shows 3 home wins, 3 away wins and 1 draw, meaning there is no clear bias trend in his officiating. He previously handled Arsenal's 2-0 win over Olympiacos, where he issued 4 yellows in what was described as a controlled performance. He has also overseen high-scoring and high-pressure games, including Juventus versus Dortmund 4-4 and Barcelona 7-2 Newcastle. And he is not afraid to make big calls, as shown when he issued 6 yellows and a red in Benfica versus Real Madrid. Let me put this in plain terms for you. The referee choice is actually reasonably positive for Arsenal. A man who has previously managed their game well, who is not trigger-happy with red cards, but who is also not afraid to take control of a match, is exactly what you want for a high-stakes second leg, where Arsenal hold a 1-0 advantage. The 1-0 lead from Kai Havertz's late goal means Arsenal need discipline above everything else. A referee with a balanced record who lets the game flow is the best possible outcome. The concern is the yellow card average of 4.7 per game. With Arsenal playing a high press and potentially being defensively stretched due to injuries, discipline will be crucial. Arteta on fire. The emotional state of the manager. Sky Sports News captured 2 extraordinary quotes from Arteta in his press conference that deserve careful attention. First, on Arsenal's opportunity in the Champions League, Arteta described it as the biggest opportunity in 6.5 years. Second, and even more revealing, when asked about his emotional state ahead of the Sporting CP second leg, Arteta said, "Fire, I'm on fire. I'm dreaming so much. I have done so much to be in this position. Here is my take on what is really going on." These two quotes together paint a very clear picture of where Arteta's mindset is right now. This is a man who is emotionally invested at the highest level. Fire, I'm on fire. That is not the language of someone managing expectations or staying cautious. That is the language of someone who believes this is his moment, not just Arsenal's moment. When a manager starts speaking in personal terms about what he has done to reach a position, it tells you that the ambition driving this campaign goes beyond tactics and team selection. It is deeply personal, and while that kind of burning desire can inspire a team, it can also create pressure and expectation that becomes difficult to manage if results do not go the right way. Roy Keane calls out the players after the Bournemouth defeat. Roy Keane had strong words about what he saw, particularly regarding Declan Rice and the leadership responsibility of the players. Keane said the position Arsenal are in remains fantastic, but he then challenged the players directly. He said Arsenal did not learn from the first half, doing the same things in the second half. He specifically targeted Declan Rice on the issue of leadership, saying Rice and players like him need to get a grip of the team. Keane also said that the fans are nervous and people are looking at Arteta. But his key message was this: the manager has done his job by putting together a brilliant squad in a great position. It is now on the players to deliver. He warned that the next 3 or 4 or 5 weeks will reveal what kind of characters these Arsenal players truly are. And his most powerful line was this: if they slip up here, they'll never forgive themselves. Let me walk you through this step by step. Roy Keane's analysis cuts straight to the heart of what separates good teams from great ones. Talent gets you into position, character keeps you there. What Keane is identifying is a pattern he has seen before. A team with the quality and the position to win something, but one that keeps finding ways to not quite deliver when the biggest moments arrive. His call out of Declan Rice is significant because Rice is the player who was brought in specifically to provide exactly that kind of leadership and control in big moments. If even Rice is not stepping up to that standard, then Arsenal have a deeper problem than injuries. They have a mentality challenge that no amount of tactical preparation can fully solve. The statistical reality behind the absence of Saka and Odegaard. Liquid Guna provided cold data that explains precisely why the Bournemouth defeat happened and why Arsenal looks so different without their two best attacking players. Both Bukayo Saka and Martin Odegaard rank among the top 7 players in the entire Premier League for open play, expected assists per 90 minutes. Their absence has directly disrupted Arsenal's attacking fluency, making it harder to create and control games consistently. Here is how I see this: numbers do not lie. When you remove 2 players who are statistically among the best chance creators in the entire league, you are not just losing names on a team sheet. You are removing the engine room of Arsenal's attacking play. Every movement, every combination, every moment of creativity that Arsenal produce in the final third is built around the patterns that Saka and Odegaard generate. Without them, the team still works, but it works at a significantly lower level of output. The defeat to Bournemouth was not a tactical failure or a motivation failure. It was the natural statistical consequence of playing without 2 of your most important attackers. The evidence supports that entirely. Max Dowman and the decision Arteta must make. Now let us turn to the deeper analysis of the situation surrounding Mikel Arteta's selection decision for the Sporting CP second leg. The situation is very clear. With Saka absent from training and looking unlikely to be available, the question of who starts on the right wing becomes one of the most important decisions Arteta will make in this entire campaign. Noni Madueke was given the opportunity to fill that role against Bournemouth, and it is now clear that the performance was deeply disappointing. The evidence is specific and damning. In 54 minutes on the pitch, Madueke completed just 9 passes and managed only 1 dribble. For a wide attacking player whose entire value is supposed to come from carrying the ball and creating danger in one-on-one situations, those numbers represent a complete non-performance. The reality for the club is that Arteta now faces a genuine dilemma. Does he persist with Madueke in a must-win European night, hoping that the bigger occasion will produce a better performance? Or does he take what some would call a brave decision and hand the opportunity to 16-year-old Max Dowman? The evidence suggests that Dowman has already proven he belongs at this level. He has made at least 1 previous Champions League appearance, and the argument being made is that his energy, his directness and his unpredictability make him a more dangerous option than a Madueke, who is clearly not in form or confidence. It is now clear that the timing of this decision could not be more significant. Arsenal are only 1-0 ahead in the tie. That is a fragile advantage. Sporting CP will have their captain Morten Hjulmand back for this second leg, which means they will be more organised and more of a threat in North London than they were in the first leg. Arsenal need to create danger. They need width and penetration. And if the player supposed to provide that on the right is completing 9 passes in 54 minutes, the conclusion is unavoidable. The stakes are not just this game either. The weekend after, Arsenal travel to face Manchester City in what has been described as a title-deciding encounter. The mood going into that game, the confidence and the momentum in the squad will be directly affected by how this European tie is resolved. Let me break this down for you. The decision to start a 16-year-old in a Champions League quarter-final second leg is not a small one. It carries risk. But the evidence points to the conclusion that the greater risk is starting Madueke and watching another performance that generates nothing. Football at its highest level rewards boldness at exactly the right moment. If Dowman starts and delivers even a fraction of the unpredictability that his youth and directness can bring, it could be the difference between Arsenal advancing and Arsenal being eliminated. The tactical argument for Dowman is stronger than the argument against him right now. Arteta's real ambition and why it creates attention. Now let us address the bigger picture question that sits behind all of this. What is Mikel Arteta's true priority? The situation is this. Arteta is believed to have his personal ambitions firmly fixed on becoming the first Arsenal manager to win the Champions League. It is described as his great ambition, not just winning trophies for Arsenal, but making history at the club in a very specific way. Journalist Miguel Delaney has described the dynamic as similar to what happened at Liverpool in 2019, when Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool wanted both the League and the Champions League simultaneously. And in that situation, the Champions League was the prize they prioritised emotionally. And Delaney has suggested, based on what he has heard, that Arteta wants to be the first manager to bring the European Cup to the Emirates Stadium. Now, here is what this really means. There is nothing wrong with ambition, but the tension that this creates is real, and it is important for supporters to understand it. Arsenal have now finished second in the Premier League for 3 consecutive seasons. The fans are not asking for the Champions League right now. They are asking for the title. They are asking for the 22-year wait to end. They are asking for what the Invincibles started and never finished. It is now clear that if Arteta is privately prioritising the Champions League over the Premier League in his decision-making, that priority does not align with what the fan base is demanding. When you are top of the table with a genuine chance to finally win the league and you have players managing their fitness carefully ahead of European games, the question becomes very direct. Which competition is truly being protected? The evidence from this season's injury management, rotation decisions, and the sheer emotional weight Arteta is putting on the Champions League opportunity suggests that Europe holds a special place in his thinking. And while that might produce glory one day, the risk is that another second-place Premier League finish, while prioritising Europe, would seriously damage the trust between manager and supporters. The reality for the club is that both competitions are within reach. But managing both simultaneously with a squad this depleted by injuries is the greatest test Mikel Arteta has ever faced as a manager. Transfer updates and what they tell us. Let us now cover the transfer stories that are developing in the background because they are directly relevant to Arsenal's strategic planning. First, there are reports that Arsenal are interested in signing Oscar Mingueza on a free transfer this summer. Mingueza is described as a versatile Spanish international who is seen as a high-caliber squad option who could strengthen the defence. The specific context here is important. With Ben White potentially leaving the club, Mingueza is being considered as a quality replacement. Let me give you my honest take on this. A free transfer for a versatile Spanish defender who can provide cover across the back line is exactly the kind of sensible squad building Arsenal need. The potential departure of Ben White creates a gap that needs addressing. Mingueza on a free would be low risk and high value if he can provide the depth and flexibility the defence needs. Second, Arsenal have reportedly submitted a concrete offer to Jurrien Álvarez in a bid to beat Paris Saint-Germain to his signature. Arsenal are pushing to agree personal terms before opening talks with Atletico Madrid over a fee. This is classified as a rumour at this stage based on a report from Media Foot. But it is significant that Arsenal are moving early and aggressively on this target. Here is the part most people are missing. The fact that Arsenal are reportedly trying to agree personal terms with Álvarez before even opening fee negotiations with Atletico Madrid is a very modern transfer tactic. You secure the player's commitment first, then negotiate the fee from a position of strength. If Álvarez wants to come, Atletico Madrid's negotiating position weakens significantly. This is intelligent business if the reports are accurate. Third, as a contingency, it is being reported that Arsenal are exploring a potential move for Lautaro Martinez if the Álvarez deal falls through. Lautaro is being considered as a serious alternative to strengthen the forward line. Here is what you really need to understand. Having a backup plan for a major transfer is smart management. Both Álvarez and Lautaro Martinez are world-class forwards. The fact that Arsenal are reportedly pursuing both as options tells you that strengthening the striking position is considered the highest priority for the summer window. Fourth, Arsenal are closely monitoring Sporting CP right-back Ivan Fresneda ahead of tomorrow's match. The 21-year-old Spaniard is described as a long-admired target, with Arsenal scouts watching closely, even as Fresneda himself is a doubt for the game due to a muscular issue. Let me put this in plain terms for you. There is something fascinating about scouting a player on the night your club faces his team in a Champions League quarter-final. But this is exactly how modern football works. Even in the middle of a crucial European tie, the technical staff are looking ahead to the next window. Fresneda's age, his nationality and the right-back position all fit Arsenal's reported recruitment profile perfectly. Fifth, and finally on transfers, there are reports that Real Madrid are monitoring 19-year-old Arsenal midfielder Miles Lewis-Skelly. The young player has found minutes harder to come by this season due to competition from Calafiori and Hincapié. Reports suggest Arsenal could be open to listening to offers this summer. Here is my take on what is really going on. The situation with Lewis-Skelly is a classic development versus profit dilemma. He is 19 years old, he has clear talent, but with two established players ahead of him in the same position, his path to regular minutes at Arsenal is blocked for now. If Real Madrid come with a serious offer, the club will have to make a very difficult decision about his long-term development versus the financial and competitive opportunity of selling to one of the world's biggest clubs. Jamie Carragher and the brutal assessment. Jamie Carragher gave an assessment that Arsenal supporters may not want to hear, but which deserves honest analysis. Carragher said that a manager does not change after 5 or 6 years in the next week. He identified Arteta's true strengths as his back four and possibly Declan Rice, but his most striking comment was this: Arsenal have not got an outstanding attacker. Let me walk you through this step by step. Carragher is making a structural observation, not a motivational one. And on the pure evidence of what we have seen this season, particularly in the absence of Saka and Odegaard, it is difficult to argue against it. Arsenal's attacking system is built on movement, combinations and the brilliance of specific individuals. When those individuals are absent, the system still functions, but it does not produce the same quality of output. Carragher's point is that Arteta's tactical identity is built around defensive solidity and midfield control, not around a dominant number 9 or a consistently world-class attacker. Whether you agree with that assessment or not, it explains why Arsenal looks so different without their two most creative players. And it underlines exactly why the transfers this summer, whether it is Álvarez or Lautaro or another forward option, are so critical to this club's next stage of development. So let us bring this all together. What is the real picture for Arsenal right now? The situation is one of the most complex and high-pressure moments Mikel Arteta has faced since taking charge of this club. The injury list is genuinely alarming. The squad is stretched. Key decisions around team selection, specifically the question of Max Dowman versus Madueke, could define the outcome of a Champions League campaign. The manager himself is emotionally fired up, describing this as the biggest opportunity in 6.5 years. But that same burning personal ambition for Champions League glory creates a tension with what the fan base is demanding, which is the Premier League title after 22 years of waiting. The transfer planning in the background shows that the club is thinking clearly about the future, with moves for Álvarez, Lautaro, Mingueza and the monitoring of Fresneda all pointing to a serious investment in the squad this summer. And above all of it sits the fundamental challenge that Roy Keane identified most clearly. Talent has put Arsenal in this position. Character will determine whether they stay there. The next 72 hours will tell us a great deal about what kind of club Arsenal truly are right now. This is Melissa, Arsenal analyst. Thank you for watching. If this breakdown gave you the full picture that other channels are not giving you, please subscribe, hit the notification bell and share this video with every Arsenal supporter you know. We will be back with the full match reaction after tomorrow's game. Do not miss it.